Hello, everyone. Welcome to HVCH's 55 Ways to a Better Me. I'm Katy Kudlapur. I am a registered nurse, a certified diabetes educator, and a health coach. And I'm very glad to be back with you again today. I hope that you enjoyed April's grocery store tour that we did at Kroger. And I wanted to pick up on that today and talk about a concept that I mentioned in the grocery store tour in April, and that is the glycemic index. Now, although you won't find the glycemic index on a food label per se, it is very accessible on the internet and to find actually the scale. So I thought that was what I would focus on today. The glycemic index is actually a number from 0 to 100 assigned to a food with pure glucose that is given the actual value of 100. So if you think of pure glucose being 100, so that represents the relative rise in blood sugar levels 2 hours after consuming a food. Now, the glycemic index of a specific food does depend primarily on the type of carbohydrate it is. Food considered to have a low glycemic index would be 55 or less. And a high glycemic index is 70 or more. So that would give a mid-range between 56 and 69. So you may be thinking, why is this important? Well, the term was introduced in 1981 by David Jenkins and co-workers. And it's useful for looking at how quickly the blood sugar rises and how much insulin from the pancreas is released. And that's important because it obviously affects our blood sugar levels, but it affects our energy levels and it affects weight gain. So if we are in the habit of eating a lot of foods with a higher glycemic index, and we'll talk about some specifics, that can cause a rapid rise in our blood sugar, a surge of insulin response, and maybe a drop in our energy level, and eventually can add to additional weight, body weight. So that's why it's important. I wanted to kind of go over a few of the foods that we might be thinking about. Largely, we think about fruits and vegetables having a glycemic index assigned to it, although most foods that have any carbohydrate at all, you can find a value on. So keeping in mind that 55 on a scale of 1 to 100, 0 to 100, 55 and below is considered a low glycemic index. So the lower on that scale would mean that that food is not going to draw your blood sugar high, very high, therefore not creating a very high surge in your insulin response, helping to keep your blood sugar rather steady. So thinking about fruit, I'm just going to give you a few examples, but actually your berries, your raspberries, blueberries, strawberries fall into more of a lower glycemic index route. Also, you'll find apples and grapefruit in that. And in vegetables, you actually can find more like very low and then low. So very low would be more under 40, but without complicating too many numbers, I wanted you to kind of keep in mind that your salad leaves, like your green salads, your spinach, and that's both raw and cooked, celery, cucumbers, white mushrooms. So when you kind of think of putting a salad together, and so that may be why we tend to think about salads, the leafy greens, that is, as a good thing to add into our diet when we are being more cautious of our weight. So again, just focusing on the glycemic index, your salad greens, and more of the celery, cucumbers, radishes, things that you put in, you'll find on very low. You start to add cabbage and cauliflower and eggplant. Those are some samples of still low carbohydrates. When we think about higher carbohydrate vegetables, that usually gets into your starchy vegetables. So although they're packed with nutrients, such as corn, potatoes, lima beans, those do have a higher glycemic index. So we want to definitely eat those in moderation, and maybe not while we're in an active weight loss phase. I just had a few more tips for you in regards to preparing your food. Interestingly, changing your stomach and gut emptying times can naturally reduce the entry of glucose into your bloodstream. And so did you know that using vinegar and lemon juice to help pickle your vegetables actually help to slow down the emptying of your stomach, which can allow the blood sugar not to rise quite as high as fast. I thought that was an interesting fact. Also, I didn't mention grains. Obviously, our grains have most generally a moderate to high glycemic index. So again, we want to be careful with those if we are managing our weight or trying to reduce it. But a little tip there is actually undercook your spaghetti, your oatmeal or other starches. So that actually helps to slow down digestion and again, slow down that rise in blood sugar so quickly. If you use stone ground rather than finely milled flours, those larger particles actually have a lower glycemic index. And again, in a weight loss phase, we should really be choosing foods with a lower glycemic index because it will help facilitate weight loss. So you might want to combine, if you were, say, having maybe some grains or in your meal, you might pair that with a nice leafy green salad or some of the lower glycemic index vegetables. During the weight loss phase, combine those, and overall, you're going to have a really nice variety in your meal, but still helping you move towards your goals. Finally, I don't want to leave out dairy because actually, your low-fat dairy items and even low-fat yogurt or plain yogurt is a nice way to add some dairy in if you can tolerate dairy that has a lower glycemic index. So kind of in review, the glycemic index is in a scale from 0 to 100. So pure glucose would be considered 100, and the lower glycemic index foods would be considered 55 and below. And those really are the best foods to incorporate in your diet the majority of the time and to pair with some of your higher glycemic index foods from time to time. But know your goals. And I hope that you find this helpful as you're shopping and as you're preparing your meals. And I appreciate the time with you today. I look forward to being back with you again next month. So have a great week and a great month. Thank you. Bye.